adjusted a little bit.
So you think maybe 2 range?
Yeah.
We'll have to-
More on it cause it to fire. Or it could be germane, which would cause it to detonate
Mhm.
and heat up and have hot spots. Like when you shut it off, does it ever keep running?
No.
And
I haven't noticed that yet. I haven't noticed that yet. But that's, I'll have to look for an adjustment reports on it. See which one is which on or that. I guess there's probably only one, right?
It should be fairly accessible too.
Mhm.
Well, if the carb is accessible.
Well, carbs there, yeah.
Probably be able to Google it, find out exactly which one it is.
That's what I'll do.
I call this meeting to order of the Town of Gibsons Council at 3:30 p.m., March 3rd, 2026. And we're honored to be gathered on the traditional territory of the Skokomish Nation. First, we need to approve the agenda. I only need to look over here now. Is Councillor Lumley with us? Because I don't see him on the screen, but he did say he'd be. Oh, it says he's in the gallery. There he is, okay. Okay, now that we have everybody that I was expecting to be in attendance here, we'll start. So let's approve the agenda. Moved by Councillor Kroll, second by Councillor DeAndrade. All those in favor? The motion carries. And we have minutes to adopt from February 17th, regular council. Moved by Councillor DeAndrade, seconded by Councillor Kroll. All those in favor? The motion carries. And now we have a delegation from the Sunshine Coast Yacht Club. Mark Evans and Gary White are here. Not Gary? Okay. Okay. Well, you can, yeah, it has another name on the agenda, but I know you, Mark, so go ahead.
I looked at the agenda and saw me.
Yeah.
Absolutely horrified, but yeah, there I am.
Oh, it's the Gary White Memorial Regatta. I see.
That's the one.
It looks, yeah, it's
Okay.
just had a confusing line break here. So go ahead, Mark.
Your worship. Yeah, and push the button, yeah. And I have to hold it down then, okay. Your worship, there's it, okay, we're live. Your worship, members of council, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. I won't take much of it, I know you're busy. The Sunshine Coast Yacht Club is hosting the Gary White Memorial Regatta as we do annually. This year it is with the Martin 242 Canadian Championships. Sunshine Coast Yacht Club is based in, oh, I have to apologize for reading the slides because that's my only notes. So it's based in Gibsons, BC. It's a member of World Sailing, Sail Canada, and BC Sailing. It's a non-profit, self-funded society registered in British Columbia, and the purpose of the club is to promote the sport of sailing throughout education and racing events on the Sunshine Coast. The Gary White Memorial Regatta Gary was the driving force behind the formation of the Sunshine Coast Yacht Club in 2007. And Gary was an avid sailboat racer, and that's what the club does, is sailboat racing. Previous years, regattas have seen between 10 to 20 boats, and this year, as I said, we're hosting the Martin 242 Canadian Nationals. Pardon me. The Martin 242 is a one-design keelboat designed by Vancouver resident Don Martin. There are 2 production plants, one in Richmond and one in Ontario, and there's approximately 450 Martin out in North America. The land-based events are Friday afternoon registration. Saturday is the results of the day's racing and a social. And the Sunday is the results and award presentation, and they're both all being held at the Bay Gibsons, which is the restaurant across the street from the marina. Those are the descriptions of the courses. So you can see the first door was going to be a long course, going to be out around all the islands and then finishing within the straits here. And then if there is time, which we're anticipating there will be multiple races in the bay on Saturday. And then on Sunday, we also have multiple races on the short course as well. So there'll be 1 day of long course and then multiple races on the short course. So it should be pretty exciting. Why Gibsons? Recent Martin 242 participants participated in the Gary White Memorial, and Fleet 1 of the memorial Fleet 1 of the Vancouver-based folks petitioned the rest of the Martins in Vancouver and said, this is a great place to sail. It's a great venue. It's a wonderful place. We should do this. So over the last year and a half, the planning had started, and we had agreed that we could probably do something with their support and with the support of some of the municipality and obviously the town. It's registration on the Friday night, 2 days of racing on the 18th and 19th, and we're anticipating about 25 boats with 4 crews apiece to land on the shores of Gibsons on Friday the 17th of July. That'll be probably in the neighborhood of 100, 120 people landing on the beach. Saturday and Sunday, 2 full days of racing and in and around the local area here. Back up one more. What is needed for a regatta? Well, we have 3 Sail Canada certified judges, 5 regional certified racing officers, 2 mark skippers, handicappers, and scoring officials, or 1 or 2 busy people with a laptop. Transportation to and from hotels and B&Bs, moorage for approximately 30 boats, and registrations and trophies. All of this is done by volunteers. We also need robo-marks. They're floating buoys in the bay. We've been approached by the Royal Vancouver Yacht Club, who said that they are going to give us a fairly good deal on renting theirs, and we're hoping that that's going to come to fruition. And instead of having to put out 300 feet of line for each buoy sitting out in the bay, these are GPS controlled and they're hover in their stations. Less damage to the environment, of course, because you don't have to throw an anchor down, and it's more easily moved. And, of course, accommodation per diems for the out-of-town officials. As I said before, there are no paid personnel. The event is staffed 100% by volunteers. Why is funded needed? Most regattas are held at yacht clubs that own their own regattas. You travel into Vancouver and 90% of the marinas there are owned by the yacht clubs that host various events, and they're more easily to be able to shuffle people around and get moorage. So, and offer moorage at a substantially reduced rate. We've approached the 2 facilities here. They are going to be able to provide moorage for us, but it'll be at the fixed rates. So that is an increased cost to the participant, and to try to attract participants, we're trying to keep our cost as low as possible. Donations enable sponsors to advertise and promote their businesses as well. So, benefits to the town of Gibsons: 25 visiting boats with a minimum 4 people. It's about 100 people landing on the shores of BC, Gibsons, as I said. Crew and friends meeting and needing rooms and food. Sponsors information on the registration documents and around their meeting areas. Prominent recognition as an official partner, whoever a sponsor is, and connection with an active demographic who will promote the Sunshine Coast, and potential for repeat customers who will love the Port of Gibsons. And because we're going to be sailing in the bay here, it'll be a very colorful event for spectators. What can the town of Gibsons do? Sponsorship, actually. Advertisement, endorsement of this national event in the town of website would be great. Pictures and links to the regatta page, and donations. We need about $4,000 to run this. Plus, we're finding that it's an ever-increasing bill, as you can imagine. So right now, we're at about $4,000 for the need, and what we can take is we'll take anything you can give us. What we really need is obviously some money and promotion of it through the town website. Not sure if that's something you can do. I have looked through the town website and I have seen some things, but not others. So thank you for your time. Questions?
Thank you, Mark. Just to answer you quickly on that, we don't have a grants of assistance program anymore. However, we can certainly look at our budget for advertising maybe and see if that fits in with that. But that'll be at the operational level to see what you offer, what can be offered there for the sponsorship. And then, yeah, certainly we could look at what perhaps what we could do for promoting the event as well on the website, like you say. Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor White, and thank you for the presentation, Mark. For those who don't know, Gary, as you said, was an avid sailor, and for many years, Gary was the driving force behind the bitter end, and has supported boaters in this community for a long time. So it's, you know, and sailing is something I think all of us appreciate. It's there's that thing about sailboats and, stink pots. And sailboats definitely get the hands up when we're looking at, how they treat our marine environment. You mentioned you are a registered charity?
No, we're not.
You're not for profit.
Nonprofit society.
Okay.
We don't have a registered.
So you're not
charity
able to give
associated with
you're
the-
not able to give tax receipts.
No.
Okay.
No,
That was-
advertising is all we can hope to. Any donations, advertising is about all we can do.
And do you have a website that, like, there's a link that people can donate through, like through Canada Helps or Square or any of those other
There
platforms
is,
for?
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead, sorry.
So there's a website that people can donate through?
Yes, indirectly. The website has our contact information on it, and we have asked for donations. We've got a number of sponsors who've already come forward. However, we're still shy a few dollars here and there. As I said, we need over $4,000 to run the regatta, and we've come up with some. And obviously, registration of each boat is going to cover some of that as well. But the boats to travel back and forth, and gas and lodging and moorage and everything, it adds up very quickly.
Thank you.
So the website is a Sunshine Coast Yacht Club, and if you Google that, it'll come up. And unfortunately, you're going to get two of them. One of them is in Australia, which is on the Sunshine Coast down there, and one of them is BC, and it specifically says British Columbia. Our contact information is on there, and information about the regatta is on there as well, and an entry form. And if you'd like to come and join us for dinner, there's a place to fill out a dinner.
Councillor D'Andrade.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know if it will be a shot, but the Sunshine Coast Tourism is always interested in, obviously, this type of activity. So I don't know if they have any way of helping. So, but I suggest you approach them. Have you?
In which, sorry?
Sunshine Coast Tourism.
We've approached the Sunshine Coast Tourist Bureau, and they're going to help us with advertising. So far, they haven't volunteered any money towards it.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us and
Well, thank you very much for your
spreading the
time.
word about this great event coming to Gibsons. We're happy to have it.
If I can pass on an email, you've got my contact, or if a site or something, you can. That would be great. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. On to bylaws. We have our bylaw notice enforcement bylaw, which is ready for adoption. It's here at 5.1. And we just need a motion to make that adoption. Moved by Councillor D'Andrade, seconded by Councillor Kroll. All those in favor? The motion carries. And then we've got another one for adoption, which is a water regulation amendment bylaw, item 5.2. Moved by Councillor D'Andrade, seconded by Councillor Kroll. All those in favor? And that bylaw is adopted. And next, we have a more complicated one because we've got different options to consider. On page 3 of the staff report, which is the proposed animal care and control bylaw. I see our bylaw enforcement officer here who may want to speak to it. I assume that's why you're probably at our meeting.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. So this report is just a follow-up on our October meeting when we proposed a new bylaw and we were asked for direction. And you asked for public feedback, which is included in this report. We had 23 responses. I'm going to say for the most part, people were very keen about it and thought it was well thought out, with just some suggestions that they would like to see in it, which are laid out in the table there. And the other matter for discussion today was we have heard not just from these respondents, but over the course of several years, people wanting to know if there was an off-leash beach for dogs in the summertime, and on the other hand, people opposed to certain beaches being off-leash in the summertime. So that's just up for discussion today. Thank you.
Okay. Looking to council for any questions on this, Councillor D'Andrade?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I really appreciate this bylaw. It's not only comprehensive, but it's simple. And I know staff has put a lot of energy to come up with such bylaw. Another interesting thing, on February 24, so just last week, there was a cat that showed up deceased right here in the corner of Reed and Payne. So these things are happening. So hopefully with the bylaw, there will be more awareness. And so that's my question. Given the amount of work that the bylaw officers put into that, and also understanding how municipalities are handling this, what kind of information regarding education? So how, is there any successful formula for education that some municipalities are applying?
That I am not aware of. There is the yellow leash thing that's out there already, which a lot of municipalities do, which is if your dog is wearing a yellow leash or has a yellow ribbon, that kind of tells people that my dog's not very, friendly, or, to kind of back off. That's the only program that I'm aware of. If we were to go ahead with adopting this or have more readings, I think we would do quite a bit of public education first around this. We wouldn't just go in with it straight away. That's something we definitely would talk with Bronwyn about.
Thank you, Mayor White, and certainly applaud the efforts of the bylaw department in bringing things sort of up to speed. It is an issue with people with pets in the summer, definitely, where they're expecting or experiencing climate change, as we're all faced with, more heat, and particularly dogs do have a difficult time in heat. Not everyone has the option of, keeping them indoors in an air-conditioned space. I appreciate that some of our businesses, like the mall and places like that, they do permit during intense heat, is they allow people to bring their pets into the mall. So I do sort of really appreciate the concerns that people brought up of having the option of being able to take a dog to a beach to let it swim. I think it is something that should be looked at a little more seriously. Dogs in the middle of the winter aren't that concerned about cooling off and needing that swim, but in the summer, not only with the heat, but also problems with fleas and insects, that plunge in salt water does wonders for dealing with pests. So I would like to see some consideration for a beach that the public would be able to access in the summer months.
Okay. And we've got three options before us, and the option 2 is being moved. And we would need a seconder for that. That is with the revisions. That's second and third readings, but with the revisions suggested by the officer. So I see Councillor Kroll seconding that. Any further discussion? Councillor D'Andrade?
Yeah, I agree. I like the idea of Georgia Beach, but I'm just wondering, does it make sense to do temporary, like the same way we do temporary permits, just to have a sense if there is some public uneasiness to the issue, or how do we handle that? Or, yeah, I'm just curious.
Well, it wouldn't need to be like a permit, temporary permit, but we could always yeah, if it's not working, we can always stop doing it. But I don't know, yeah, that's, I guess the question here is, when it's written into Schedule B, like, this is kind of like something about opening and closing park. I feel like it would be preferable to be able to be more flexible about it than having to come to council to revise the bylaw when it comes to if a park or a beach is open or not to dogs. Like, I think I would hope our staff could just make that call rather than council having to revise a bylaw.
Absolutely, and there is one beach in the summer that's very dog friendly, and everyone gets along. No one well, there's one complainant, but in general, so we just don't enforce on that because dogs are having a great time, people are socializing, and it seems to work very well. So maybe actually then not having a designated dog beach, but just going with the flow, so to speak.
So would we need to change our recommendation here? I mean, it is, I think it would be more sensible just to give some discretion to staff to consider beaches where dogs can be off leash or not, rather than have to dictate it in a bylaw and come back to council if it's not working.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. So if we were going with option 2, we would then be saying at least beach is a prohibited area for dogs. But rather than say that, we could just not put that in and then see how this summer goes and bring it back to council if it does become a real issue.
Okay, well, it's gotta come back to council then, anyway. Yeah, I'd rather
Okay.
not have to be.
So do we want to go with option 1, which would be to proceed with it as is?
Yeah, Councillor D'Andrade?
Just a clarification, when the bylaw officer said that there's some beaches that seems to be working, is it Georgia Beach? I'm assuming it's Georgia Beach.
No, the beach in question was Headlands Beach, where the breakwater is.
Okay.
Seems to be a very popular place for people and their dogs in the summertime.
And Mayor, can I ask again why this was not proposed here?
I was hoping council would pick a beach. But if that's not the case, then we'll just proceed as is.
I don't think it should be a council decision. I think, I mean, staff is on the ground and it receives complaints and sees what's going on at these beaches. I mean, I feel like, I don't know, to me, I'm not comfortable with council kind of dictating into bylaw and things change, and I think it's better that we have confidence in our staff to be able to
I didn't realize I was in that position.
be flexible and yeah.
Then my suggestion would be to keep it, just to pass it as is, and then we will just sort out which beaches are good and which are not.
Okay. Councillor Kroll?
Thank you, Mayor White. Something that I found a bit confusing is in the Georgia Beach has a bit of a off-leash dog area. So if you've got an off-leash dog area and 50 feet from that area is a beach, it's going to be hard to keep dogs out of the water on that beach.
Exactly.
And of our beaches, it is the sort of less sort of, sandy beach where little kids are likely to be playing with their shovels and spades and things. But, in light of what Mayor White is saying, perhaps we just leave it status quo, and if it becomes a major issue, then you have the heavy hand to come down with the offenders.
Thank you, Mayor. I think my concern is if you want to enforce the bylaw, and this is something that we also learn about bylaw should be clear. So if at one point the bylaw is saying these are prohibited areas, but we are letting people go, I don't know, to me it gives a source of confusion. And we also talking about hopefully in the not to, in the near future, we're going to have a dog park. So people need to be educated, understand, okay, this is a park for dogs, this is a beach for dogs. So I feel more comfortable choosing a beach and then leave, unless we are not implementing this by law right now, because I find confusing having a bylaw, but then, certain people, well, this is an off-leash area, but there are dogs, so it starts, so I'm a little bit confused with this approach. I prefer a clear approach.
Okay, well, your motion is on the table that chooses a beach, so, which is Atlee's. So, I mean, but then you raised, well, what if it doesn't work, kind of thing. So that's the discussion we've been having. So that's the motion that we're considering right now. And it was seconded, so maybe we should, if that's what we're going to go ahead with, we'll go ahead with that. Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor White. I think, it is probably a good idea to have a designated beach. If we make it Atlee's Beach, as is in the proposal that Councillor Dandretti moved, at least it allows the opportunity, which Councillor Dandretti also brought up, was communicating that we have this sort of changed bylaw, and it permits a bit of communication that's relatively clear going out to the public, which hopefully will eliminate conflicts in other areas. So, I'll support Councillor Dandretti's motion as she proposed it.
Okay. Councillor Lumley.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The only question I might have is why Atlee's, and I know the bylaw officer mentioned that Headlands was a great beach right now. Everyone gets along and dogs can run. It's not like really like a swimming beach, so to say, like as maybe as popular as other beaches. Why wouldn't Headlands be the beach if it's already kind of like in use and
Thank you. Just to the mayor, I just would like to offer a clarification. So what the recommendation that's provided is that Atlee Beach would be added to Section 2 of Schedule B, which is the prohibited areas. So as it is right now, Section 2 just specifically designates Armour's Beach as being a prohibited area. And the recommendation is that Atlee Beach would be added to that. There's also, so there's a two-part, that recommendation 2, there's 2 parts. One is to add Atlee Beach to the prohibited areas for off-leash dogs, and then there's another one to amend Section 3 to add a dedicated off-leash beach. Just want to clarify that I don't think the bylaw officer is recommending Atlee's Beach as the designated off-leash. I think specifically it's that Atlee's Beach should be not off-leash, and then another beach should be dedicated as off-leash.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. The number of complaints we were getting were from Atlee's Beach. I just wanted to add too that we, as always, are complaint driven. So we're not specifically looking for anything along these lines. Like if we get a call about a dog running around when it should be on leash during some months, then we're attending. We're just not out there every day patrolling to see if that's the case.
Okay, Mayor, I chose option 2, which was the staff recommendation, because I understood that the beach that was going to be chosen was Georgia Beach, but maybe we can rephrase which beach, because I want staff expertise to say which beach is appropriate for off-leash during summer. So if we can hear clearly and I can amend.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. So going by my experience, last year the Headlands Beach was the off-leash dog beach, so to speak. But back to what Councillor Crowe was saying, how there is already an established off-leash area year-round at Georgia Beach, would it then make sense for that to be off-leash since people are already down there?
Okay, I like the idea of Headlands Beach because people are using, and Georgia Beach, the access is a little bit, I don't know, it's more complicated. Maybe you have to have a car. Can we keep Georgia Beach as it is, just on the grassy area, and then have Headlands Beach? And we see it as an attempt. And when we take, if goes ahead, if there's no problem, we keep the way it is. And if there's too many complaints, we revise the bylaw. This is my motion then.
And we revised the bylaw with like first, second, and third reading and adoption to change the beach, right? Yeah, this is the part I don't like. This is my only opinion. As I've already stated. Yeah, I just feel like I'm against the process. Basically, I think it's ridiculously cumbersome. So that's where I stand. So hopefully other councillors can decide what beach you want.
From,
Go ahead.
through you, Mayor White, from the way this is, because you know, I think it was a bit confusing how this read. I certainly fell down the rabbit hole. So my recommendation would be to call the question, or Councillor D'Andretti recall her motion, and we just go status quo.
Okay, because there's two status quos, kind of status, there's a, option 3 is maintain status quo and not even have new bylaws, which I don't think you mean that one, right? It's maybe just go back to.
Status
go
quo
back to
with
option one.
respect to Headlands being the beach, and
that's option
add-
1?
And add Atlees to the prohibited list.
Okay.
And
Thank you, Mayor. Just to clarify, so what I'm hearing is option 2. So we're going to amend the bylaw, add Atlees as a prohibited beach, and add Headlands as a dedicated off-leash beach for dogs in the summer. Is that what's on the table right now?
No, I thought what I heard is option 2 and then defeat it, or at least that's what Councillor Kroll's proposing. The vote might not turn out that way. I don't know where I'm gonna vote, because I'm opposed to picking a beach, or having it in the bylaw. But then you would move forward with option 1, which would presumably include Headlands. That's something I don't understand that either, like.
So option 1 would be, it is as it is today. We don't add Atlees. We don't add a specific off-leash dog park, off-leash beach, excuse me.
So with that option 1, like, or sorry, the way it is today, we've informally had, like, Headlands is one that's been working, and that would continue to be the case, but informally, staff could then decide.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, well, I guess that's where I'm sitting then too. Councillor D'Andretti.
Mayor, I'm very confused. Okay, also I understand that as it is, Atlees Beach is a prohibited because there's a clause that says all beaches are prohibited during whatever the time, right? Summer. But I don't understand why this is being added as prohibited. And I also don't understand how, okay, are you saying that we approve and then staff decide which beach and then they put a sign, this beach is allowed? Is that what we're saying? I just want to be clear. I think the public needs to be clear if there's a beach that they can take their dog. This is a serious
Staff
issue.
will be very clear to the public about.
Okay, so it doesn't need to be our decision. That's what it is? We approve the bylaw, but they decide which beach will be off-leash during summer.
Well, I think it's gonna stay the way it is, which is bylaw enforcement. That's what would happen, right?
Yes, if I may just clarify, Mr. Mayor. So dogs are allowed on beaches through the summer months, but they have to be on leash. And I think what was suggested to us is people would like to see a beach that was, you wouldn't necessarily have to have your dog on a leash.
Okay. I didn't get this part.
Yeah. Okay, so all those in favor of the motion?
Which motion?
The one that the one that you moved. Option 2.
Oh, as it is.
All those opposed? That motion's defeated. I heard some interest in moving to option 1. Or not.
Okay, a second.
Councillor Lumley? Were you moving option 1? Yeah, there was reluctance about it here. I only got a seconder, but I need a mover.
I thought the way, Councillor Kroll read it out was that he was adding, sorry, just, trying to get, on the right page here. I thought he mentioned to add, a dedicated dog beach. Did he not? Didn't he not almost amend or change the one to add that dedicated dog beach at Headlands? Like, isn't that what Councillor Cole said?
Well, that could be an alternative way of putting it forward, as saying we want to formally make that a dedicated. Yeah.
I think it would be a benefit to dog owners. Imagine if they really want to be off leash all the time, that they know they can definitely go there and
Okay.
and it's. I mean, I prefer naming that. I thought that's what was. I'm sorry. I thought that was Councillor Crowell's motion was one with the addition of Headlands as a dedicated odd leash or a dog beach. I don't know. Did I hear it wrong?
Yeah, well, it's confusing because one is, basically we're giving second and third reading, but with the addition of Headlands Beach to section 2. Oh, no. It'll be the second one. Yeah, well, it's complicated here. Come in.
Oh, no.
There's no door, though.
It's the bird.
Go ahead, Councillor Crowell, you can try.
This is sort of what I
was distracted.
And to Councillor Lumley's point, I'm in support of the bylaw. If Atlee's Beach has been an area of difficulty for bylaw, that yes, it should become added to the prohibited list, but I think it is important that we establish a beach that people can go to. So however we make that work so we can get this bylaw out and communicate it to the public, that's all I would like to see come out of this. It's awkward when you're adding things to a table and then you have to refer to the table and what does that table really mean? And you know, I know staff know it's simple and logical to staff, but it's, as I said earlier, I fell down the rabbit hole with it.
Right, okay, what I heard you moving, Councillor Kroll, is that the bylaw be given second and third reading with the amendment of section 3 of Schedule B, off-leash areas, to add Headlands Beach for dogs in the summer months. Is it summer? That's what we're looking for, right? April 15th to October 15th, right? That works? Okay. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor DeAndrade. And any more discussion on this? And I guess I'll vote in favor because this took so much work. All those in favor? The motion carries. So we can't do adoption. No, we don't, the Ministry of Transportation doesn't have to approve this, do they? Okay, just, but we still have to wait, yeah.
Mayor, just to confirm, with that change, it would be second reading as amended and third reading, and then the enforcement bylaw would be given second and third readings. So what we'll do is we'll amend the bylaws, bring them back, and then it would be the final reading for adoption on the next meeting. Okay.
Now we have introduction of a bylaw, though this is one we're familiar with, so I don't know if it really needs an introduction. It's our rates, fees, and charges amendment bylaw, and we've discussed these water, sewer, and waste rates. I don't know if our Director of Finance wants to speak to it.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I can just cover a few quick summary points. There was a meeting of the Committee of the Whole on February the 3rd that went through the supporting detail and reviewed the proposed rates for 2026. And their recommendation was forwarded to Council on February 17th and approved there. So the material here, the bylaws have been updated in that regard. The water and sewer increases are at 10%. None of that increase is for increases in operating costs. It is all entirely on account of capital to fund current and future reinvestment in the water and sewer utility assets. And the outlook is for that to continue and in 2031 to return to just regular cost of inflation increases. And of course, between now and then, many things may happen, and some of them favorable, which could help. On the garbage and organics, the increase is 3% for 26, versus in 2025 it was 9%, and it's expected to stay at 3% through 2030, because that mirrors the structure of the current contract the town has. The only other thing council should be aware of is that in the water and sewer bylaw updates for things that aren't connected with the basic charges and rates, but for things like connections, inspections, repairs, all of those items have been cost escalated, or in other words, increased by 2%, just so that the cost of doing that is being tracked along more or less correctly. And those are the items that I wanted to speak to. Thank you.
Okay, any questions? Councillor Kroll is moving for second and third reading, yeah. Okay. And seconded by Councillor D'Andrade. And any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? All those opposed? The motion carries with Councillor Lumley opposed. And council reports, committee reports. So we have minutes from Committee of the Whole on item 6.1.1, but oh yeah, sometimes there are. This is a motion coming from that. The 6.1.2 is a motion coming from 6.1.1, which was a recommendation from Committee of the Whole on the general municipal projects list, operating and capital. And we just need it to be moved here. Moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor D'Andrade. Any discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? Is that in favor? I mean, it's a we don't have attachments A and D on this agenda. or in the minutes, I don't believe, so, but hopefully, Counselor Lumley, you're familiar enough with that agenda? Yeah, okay, so that was all in favor, I believe. And administration reports. Item 7.1 is a grant application for the Government of Canada Enabling Accessibility Fund. And is, okay, looking to our planner to speak to that.
Thank you, Mayor. The Government of Canada's Enabling Accessibility Fund provides grants of $500,000 to $1 million for projects that improve accessibility in workplaces and community facilities with a maximum project duration of 24 months. The application deadline is next week, March 12th, 2026. Staff are proposing to apply for this funding to enhance accessibility at Town Hall, located at 474 and 494 South Fletcher Road. In addition, staff recently applied to the Spark BC grant program and received confirmation yesterday that the application was successful and funding has been approved for $25,000. If successful with the federal grant, funds would support several key improvements, including creating a fully accessible upstairs washroom at 474 South Fletcher, installing an automatic door opener, replacing the main floor carpet with low resistance flooring, improving site accessibility with accessible parking, drop-off areas, EV charging stations, and accessible pathways connecting parking to the buildings. Also upgrading the fire exit and deck at 494 South Fletcher to ensure accessibility, and installing visual fire alarm indicators at both buildings. Together, these initiatives would significantly improve safety, usability, and inclusion for staff and visitors, and support long-term accessibility at Town Hall. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions from council? See, Councillor Kroll.
I certainly support the application for this grant. One of the things that would qualify for it is you mentioned accessible washrooms, and we've been striving for a long time to not only have accessible washrooms, you know, in the town hall, in the town buildings, but also accessible to the public at like Five Corners and perhaps Weingarten Park. So I would suggest that any money that you can possibly glean from the federal government would be gratefully welcomed to fulfill these needs. So I certainly support the recommendations that have been made here.
Okay.
Move the motion.
And moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor DeAndrade. Any further discussion? Motion? Councillor?
Just something after we voted.
Okay, all those in favor? The motion carries. Go ahead, Councillor Kroll.
I think the Director of Planning wanted to say something before me.
Yeah, well, I look over here. I have to completely look over here. I'll be your eyes.
Thank you, through the mayor. We do have to apply for a minimum of 500,000, and it has to be based on quotes from contractors. So because it's such a tight timeline, we're not sure we're going to get all the quotes in. So we do have an expanded list that does include additional projects such as the Weingarten Park bathrooms and potentially improving downstairs access to and bathrooms. So there are more ideas or items on this list, but it does depend on whether we get the quotes in on time to apply for the budget, or for the grant.
Through you, Mayor White, I believe we did have quotes, didn't we, for the upgraded accessible washroom at Five Corners? Because originally we had funding in place for it, and then it was revised to make it completely accessible, which sort of put the quote through the roof. And
Through the mayor, so that's, we do have other grant funding that we have pursued to apply towards that facility. And the cost of that would be likely exceed the limit of this grant program.
Okay, Councillor Kroll.
as I said at the beginning, I really applaud the support that staff have given to the Accessibility Committee as it worked through what seemed like, trying to clean out the Amazon stables. What we were doing locally, and then when it went regionally, it became challenging, and I really appreciate how staff rose to support it and clear up some of the bottlenecks along the way. But something I would like, if, as a motion perhaps, is that someone on staff be trained through the Rick Hansen Foundation on accessibility, because we have the United Nations with their guidelines on accessibility. We have the federal government with their guidelines on accessibility. We have the provincial government with their guidelines on accessibility. And the one group that seemed to have synthesized all these guidelines and rules and regulations is the Rick Hansen Foundation. And they do provide training for municipal staff, and I believe there's even grant funding available for that funding. And it would at least provide that insight to our either planning or building department as projects came forward. They would be on top of them before we had to go back and say, no, you need to redo that because it's not meeting the current standards or code. So I'd just like to add that to the mix if I may.
Okay, was that in the accessibility plan at all, like that, discussions about staff training? Seems like it
was discussed.
should
It was
have been.
discussed, but I don't think it's been followed up on.
Okay,
And
was it specific to this training opportunity at the Rick Hansen Foundation?
Well, the foundation affords the opportunity for training on an ongoing and regular basis. It's,
Okay, yeah, I was asking what the plan though, and I see staff might have an answer to that, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. We have that in the implementation plan. That's more of like one of the long-term initiatives, just because it would take more funding and staff time. But that is in the implementation plan that the Accessibility Committee identified.
So just training in general, right? Yeah. So I think that's in the plan, and staff will take this opportunity that you've helpfully informed us of, Councillor Kroll, under advisement, I guess, and have a look to see if that might be something we can pursue, especially the grant part. I like that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And next, we are going to mobile vending, which I should qualify this at the start that we did have a committee of the whole recommended or scheduled, but we didn't have a lot of items for it, and this would have been a committee of the whole item to have more of a discussion on this. So I said, let's put it on the council meeting and we can discuss it. We don't necessarily need to have a prescribed final direction on it, but we can at least have a discussion here at council and perhaps put it forward to another meeting for more of a decision once we've discussed this report. So I will go to our planner to introduce, or our planning department to introduce this report. Presentation.
Thank you. This was for Committee of the Whole, so I didn't get to change the title, but this is the mobile vending. At present, mobile vending is directly addressed in a 1999 council policy and in the 2014 Traffic and Highway Use Bylaw number 1193. The 1999 council policy permits mobile vendors on private land subject to the following conditions: written permission obtained from the property owner, the existing zoning permits the sale of food and/or merchandise, required health and fire approvals are in place, the vendor holds a valid business license, the operation does not impede pedestrian or vehicular movement, and that the proposed location has access to parking. In addition, Section 7.41 of the Traffic and Highway Use Bylaw number 1193, 2014, regulates vending on highways, stating that no person may use or occupy a highway for the purpose of selling or displaying goods or services, including without limitation, flowers, fruit, vegetables, seafood, car cleaning, or other commodities, unless authorized by a permit issued under that bylaw. Several parks and waterfront areas may be suitable for mobile vending, including Dougal Park, Brothers Park, Dempster Field, Wine Garden Park, and Armours Beach. Each location presents unique opportunities and constraints that should be considered when evaluating suitability for mobile vending operations. Some advantages of mobile vending are operational flexibility, lower barriers to entry for local entrepreneurs, local economic development, expanded service options, support for community events and tourism, as well as the activation of underutilized public spaces. Some disadvantages of mobile vending include impacts on existing local businesses, public space and accessibility conflicts, noise, odor, and visual impacts, infrastructure complaints, enforcement and administrative capacity, as well as seasonal and/or weather dependency. Key regulations for the District of Sechelt include mobile vendors may not operate within 50 meters of a fixed business selling similar products. A maximum of 4 seasonal mobile vending permits may be issued, allocated on a rotational basis across all display areas, and only 1 vendor per display area may operate at a time. Key details from the City of Howell River. There's approved vending locations are included as part of the application package rather than being embedded in a bylaw, which allows the city to update the locations more efficiently. City staff have also noted challenges with private vehicles parking in designated street vending spaces at one busy location. The issue is resolved through signage and painted stall markings, and no further complaints have been received. Some policy considerations of implementing this are zoning requirements, business license requirements, enforcement penalties, BC Fire Code regulations, Vancouver coastal health requirements, as well as additional considerations such as whether to seek community input on future policy updates, whether sufficient services are available at the site, as well as the accessibility of the vending pads. Recommendations. Option 1 is to direct staff to update Council's 1999 mobile vending policy to allow mobile vendors on municipal land. And option 2 is to maintain the status quo. Thank you.
Okay, thoughts from council? Councillor Kroll first. And, okay, I see Councillor Lumley again, but
Thank you, Mayor White.
go to Councillor Kroll.
I certainly like the idea of some mobile vendors. I can see where there are areas where it could be problematic. I know from feedback we've had from the community, there's been talk about mobile vendors in the harbor area. And I can see potential problems with access and congestion. Like the one that immediately pops to mind is Armours Beach. Like, where do you put a mobile vendor at Armours Beach? Are they in the one parking spot that's available to people for the beach, or is it are vehicles now being allowed down to the seawalk level, which could be problematic? I also am a little concerned, I like the idea if it's an existing business that's extending, but I have a bit of an issue when it's sort of a pop-up that is sort of eating into the business of a bricks and mortar business in the community who are paying taxes, they're hiring staff, they're being good individuals supporting the community in a multiple of ways. And I always feel it's a bit awkward when someone comes in and sort of erodes their business. It's like, at Christmas when there's a vacant store and a pop-up business jumps in there for a month and takes the business of business owners who've been there all year struggling. So I think if we move forward with this, and I think there's a need for it, but I think it has to be done very cautiously. And I'll leave it at that for now.
Councillor DeAndrade?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I share the same concerns. I think it's great opportunity, but we have to be, I even thought about maybe we should have a pilot program and we choose 1 or 2 locations and start very, very slow. And if it's successful, we measure the impacts, and then maybe we can add another location, but we have to be cautious. Gibsons is a small, it's a small harbor. We have already parking issues and like council congestion, and then there's a competition as well. So I would be in favor if it's something very, very, very modest.
Councillor Lumley?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple of comments. I wasn't, maybe some clarification. The reference to parking, is that like appropriate parking for the vendor themselves, like having appropriate parking, or is that a reference to like, I mean, I don't know if we want to go down this road to kind of define how many parking spaces somebody might need to be a mobile vendor. That was my first question. And I was kind of in the, I guess I kind of don't like naming locations specifically. I kind of like the seashell model where they're just, you can operate in certain zones. And I would only assume that when people come and apply, like even if you have a business license and a mobile vending license and you've been approved by Health and Fire, it doesn't mean you could just park it, like just show up at Wine Garden Park someday and just start. I'm assuming that the town would have to, maybe not for money, but have a permit of some kind to allow the vendor to actually work in a specific location. So if we did it through zoning and then leave it to staff to decide if it would work or wouldn't work in a certain location at a certain time, I'd be more likely to agree with that.
Okay, I mean, I think it would certainly need kind of a permit process of someone, yeah, not just anybody showing up to a certain spot. And I do believe there would be payment involved too. Typically, that's the way it works. Yeah.
Well, if you get sorry, Mayor, if you have a business license,
No, you also have to pay for the space too.
Yeah, then set it like, I mean, I wouldn't set it, I'd have to warn against setting it too high or making it too steep because, it's not like these food vendors are like killing it out there. Like margins are pretty, they work hard and the margins are low. Even like a $100, say if you said, okay, you can work today or 2 days for $100, like that might be, if they sell $1,000 in a day, that's like 10% of their, yeah, just be careful with, if they've already got a vendor license, a business license they paid for, I'd hope that the fee or the fee to operate for a day or 2 days would be kept reasonable.
Yeah, so I think it would definitely need to be reasonable or nobody's going to do it. And also, I guess that leads me to express, I really, actually, this is a report where I find the strategic plan implications are quite interesting, and exciting potentially, just the concept that this would offer a different kind of food option in the harbor area. I mean, when I think of Armour's Beach, I think the same thing as Councillor Kroll. Really not in love with the idea of mobile vending taking up the only parking spots that we have there, because they're very few and far between. But if there would be a way to get a vendor down onto the beach, that would be so wonderful to have a place for kids to go swimming and families to be there, but also get some affordable food while they're there, where there's not really any other competition. And I mean, even walking down, you've got very different kinds of options for kind of sit down, more expensive meals that, having some quick food at the beach really would not compete with. So that excites me. And same goes, I mean, even thinking of like if there had been a baseball tournament up at Brothers Park, why not allow some mobile vendors to be there? It's not really competing with anything. Just makes the town more vital and those events more attainable for people. So yeah, I think it's an exciting idea for kind of making the harbor busier and economically thriving, I think. I understand the concerns that have been brought up. But I think Councillor Lumley's concerns are kind of, that is usually addressed in the process of selecting vendors, but and ensuring that there's a rate that works for them. So I'm supportive of the general direction of going forward. It is a bit of sometimes the devil can be in the details of some of these, when it comes to parking and making certain spots busier than others, but I can see it working better in some spots than others. But also in some spots, it's just probably not going to be viable unless there's an event going on or something. I think of, obviously, when there's the Labor Day picnic at Dougal Park, there's food anyway. But I can think of places where there might be an event. It make sense other than that example where you might have a mobile vendor there just when there's an event, but otherwise, they're probably not going to be at Dougal Park when it's just a regular day. I'll see Councillor Kroll.
Thank you, Mayor White. To Councillor Lumley's points, I think there needs to be a permitting for food vendors to occupy a space, just so there's coordination through the town, so it doesn't conflict with other scheduled events that, at least if someone comes in and says, I want to be here on July 1st, staff are going to know that that's not really going to work because, that's the Canada Day cake cutting ceremony at Weingarten Park or whatever. So I think what I would like to do is move option 1, that staff update and bring forward a new mobile vending policy and take into consideration some of the issues that have been raised. Because, just something as simple as garbage, like food vending at Armour's Beach could be quite lovely, but currently I think we have one bear-proof garbage can there. Who's responsible for the waste? And, if it's a weekend and staff aren't around to clean it up right away, seagulls are going to have a field day along with their friends, the crows. So, there needs to be some, controls put in there that It's just not, run in, sell your food, and leave a mess behind you. So I'd like to see sort of a draft bylaw come out of this.
So there's and there are a lot of examples of where this is done in other municipalities, including the ones that are listed in this report. So I'm sure there's some language to look at to address those kinds of concerns like waste. So that's been moved by option 1, moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor DeAndrade. And you'd like to speak to it too?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, obviously we have to update the policy, but I would like to know, is it something that is planned for this year and for summer? But also, I would like to see a plan, because my only concern with just updating the policy, unless the policy is going to address few specific locations and the numbers, because I would like to start this very slow. And I mean, if Sea Shelter is having I believe it's 4 mobile, we are even smaller than Sea Shelter. So I'm just concerned that, the first year we have maybe 2 vendors allowed, unless there is another location in Upper Gibsons that is not getting impact or something. Yeah, because it could be possible. I'm just concerned that suddenly there could be an avalanche of applications and too many problems that we will have some difficulty.
I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I don't think it's reasonable to expect from those vendors either that they're going to be there every day. Like, it's just not going to make sense. So I think they'll likely, I can see, summer weekends, Armour's Beach might make a lot of sense if you can bring a vendor down. Maybe during the weekday too. I think they need to feel it out for themselves, because they are going to be making those decisions themselves as business owners. It's like, you can't, I don't think we're going to force them to be there every day in our bylaw, are we? I'll look to planning.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is basically the first step in getting the direction to update our policy. There might be quite a lot of discussion once the policy comes forward, or there might be a few options under the policy in terms of what we want to regulate, whether the fees are, appropriate. So we can take into consideration the discussion today and then put a draft policy together, but I expect some more discussion. I don't think it's gonna be, adopted right away. There's probably more consideration.
Yeah, I mean, I just to your point, Councillor DeAndrade, I feel like we could probably open the floodgates wide open and you're still only gonna get a couple. It's just, we've only got, our population is small, even when people come in the summer. I don't think we have that many. I don't think the demand is really there to have kind of a chaotic situation with food trucks on every corner in Gibsons. So I'm not too concerned. I feel like we could open it up and you'd still only get a couple like you're talking about. But we need to move there by, as our director is saying, just to give some direction to start moving this forward. And yeah, I mean, absolutely, I don't think this would be coming now if we weren't going to try to get it in the summer. I mean, I don't think it makes a lot of sense to make this a big, long project that's going to take 2 years, right? Director of Finance wanted to speak to this too.
Yes, please, Mr. Mayor. It's just in the context of Armour's Beach Phase 2, and just to flag that as part of all that work, there are discussions about the overall site, and vending has come up. So, but nothing has gone terribly far with it, but it will be considered there for sure, and that will come back to council. Thank you.
But even until that point, there's power down there, right? So, I mean, it might be, it's something for staff to look into while they're working on this to see if there'd be a way to get some kind of vendor down there. But I think you've heard from council loud and clear, we're not interested in having one up in the one, somebody said the one parking space. I think maybe 3 could park there, but either way, yeah, food truck would probably take up the whole space. There's no way we'd want a vendor up in the parking area because there's just not enough space. So we've got a mover and a seconder. Is there any more discussion on this? All those in favor? The motion carries. And now we are on to item 7.3, 566 Seaview Road encroachment agreement. Go to our Director of Infrastructure Services.
Thank you, Mayor. Fairly straightforward, an encroachment agreement for a property on 566 Seaview Road. The backstory is a little bit more complex, but just to quickly summarize, this was finished sometime in 2017, and at the time there was discussions with the town and the property owner, once it was identified that there was the retaining wall was encroaching onto town land, around having some sort of an encroachment agreement. That conversation seemed to have stalled out sometime around 2020, and then it kind of landed on my desk in 2023. At the time, we weren't aware of there being any engineering sign-off on the wall, which gave staff some concern. We've kind of worked through that with the property owner, and the building official at the town was able to get a copy of the engineering sign-off and design for that retaining wall in the fall of 2025, which leads us to the place where we're now able to reconsider the encroachment agreement as we have confirmation that it was designed and inspected by an engineer. So we have comfort that it's a stable structure, and then the encroachment agreement would allow it to exist with the positioning that it's in, where it is 34 centimeters onto town property on the McCall Lane side, without putting the owner in a position where they would be required to remove the structure. So that's the summary of the encroachment. Standard encroachment language would exist, which would allow the town the right to have it removed if required for improvements along the lane. And the encroachment agreement, rather than just a non-enforcement, the benefit of the encroachment agreement is it puts an insurance requirement on the property owner, would name the town as an additionally insured, hence the recommendation. And I do just need to make a clarification that I see I made an error on the addressing of the property. So you'll see the subject line says 566 Seaview Road. The recommendations refer to 566 McCall Lane. That should be Seaview Road, so whichever option gets moved, we'll have to clarify or correct that to read 566 Seaview Road. I'll look to council for any questions.
Any questions? Councillor D'Andrade.
Well, it's not a question. I support option one, and one thing that I always appreciate that all these encroachments agreement gives the town the right to remove if necessary. So I feel there's no concern really. So I move option one with the change of address.
And Councillor Kroll seconds that. Any further discussion? All those in favor? The motion carries. Thank you. And now on to the foreshore restoration project update. There's no council direction needed here, but it's good to get this update. Questions about this project come up often, including at the council table about when we can expect to see some work getting done and how it'll look. So it's good to see this update, and I'll just ask if there are any further questions from council. Seeing none, we will move to item 7.5. And this is another grant application, the Local Government Development Approvals Program. And the explanation of it is verbal. So I will look to one of our directors to take this on. Planning or infrastructure. So let's go for it. Go.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. So this application is under the Local Government Development Approvals Program. It's a grant that UBCM is putting out for up to $200,000, and the application is due on March 13th, which is why there isn't a staff report and we're just doing a verbal. But what we're recommending doing is applying for this grant. We've got some funding allocated under the Housing Accelerator Fund to update bylaw 1175, which is our subdivision bylaw, to bring it up to basically meet the OCP and the new zoning bylaw. So modernize it, bring it up to date. And also get recommendations that could go towards an amenity cost charges bylaw. So there's also funding allocated under the Housing Accelerator Fund for this. So what we could do is apply for this grant and get a bit more money to do this work that would relieve it from the Housing Accelerator Fund.
Councillor Kroll?
Just moving the recommendation.
Perfect. Seconded by Councillor DeAndrade. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? The motion carries. And now on to the next item, which is, that's my mayor report. I don't know if someone was poking fun at me, but the agenda says my activities since the previous meeting. This is like actually my activities for like the last 8 months because it's been so long since I've done a report, which I apologize for on the very first line. Yeah, it's been a very busy time, and the longer you put off the report, the longer it takes to write it, as everybody knows here. So,
And the more things you miss.
pardon me?
And the more things you miss.
And the more things you miss, yeah. And I think one recent event I did miss too is Black History Month, and I know that was again a really great event at the Gibsons Public Market, and Louise was there, and thank you to Louise and her mother Yabo for helping to coordinate that. And as always, there was really great food, and all of council was invited. But yeah, sometimes it can be hard to make Sundays, especially. So hopefully councillors will be able to enjoy the food in the future too. Yeah, and I was able to do a quick proclamation too. Yeah, it was good to do that. Any questions on the report? There's a lot in there about advocacy and a lot of work and things that have gone on for a while, and I will try to update that sooner than 8 months from now. But yeah, if anyone has any questions, you can ask me anytime about any of the events or activities in there. So, going to a motion to close. We have an in-camera meeting, and we need to close this meeting in accordance with sections 91E, K, and 92B of the Community Charter. And those sections are listed on the agenda page. Moved by Councillor Kroll, seconded by Councillor DeAndrade. All those in favor? The motion carries to close the meeting.